Being organized, I don't think is a final state. I think it's a transitory state. It's a thing you do regularly, right? It's not something that you do it once and then you're done. It's going to take some effort, not much typically, on a regular basis to maintain. It's if you do it right, it can be relatively easy to maintain, but it does take just a little bit of effort up front. Getting to that point may take a lot more effort. Depends on where you're at. If your house looks like a hoarder's home, you have to be honest with yourself, whether or not that's true, maybe a lot more work. But for most of us, I think it's a relatively minimal amount of work. It's probably more work in our heads than it is in reality. I know that's been true for me, that recently I was organizing some things. It's like, this is going to take me a couple hours. It took me about half an hour. The mental load on doing it was about what I expected, but the actual time it took was much less than I thought it would be. And so it's one of those things where I look at it as, if you want to be more organized, you can do the massive 3-day cleaning spree where you do everything all at once. And maybe that works for you and it lasts long enough that you're happy with that. But what I found works a lot better is just pick a small section and work on that. And if you do more afterwards, then great. But just do the small section. Do 5 minutes even on that small section, or 2 minutes. Because I find once you get started, you just kind of finish it. Particularly if it's not too onerous. Now, I haven't had to do one of those massive 3-day cleaning sessions in a very long time. So if you do have that, it may take you longer to get this done than you want to do in one go. But if you break it down and just do a little section at a time, that helps make it go a little faster. And once you get started, it really does go much faster than you'd expect. At least that's what I've found. And it's normally not particularly hard work. It's just getting it done. But it is the kind of thing where you want to make sure whatever system you come up with is something you can maintain. It shouldn't be something that takes a lot of effort to maintain. It should be relatively simple. So if there's something you use really often, maybe it stays out on a counter. It doesn't all have to be like perfect and spotless and coming from somebody's Instagram story. It can be a place you still live in, right? So you don't want to go too far into the organization where you can't live there anymore because it's so rigid. You want to make sure it's something that is still livable. So if that means some stuff is left on the counters, well, that's fine, right? In a kitchen, you're going to have stuff on the counters, easily access stuff. You don't want to be putting it in and out of cabinets, but if it's like a thing you use once a week, then that living in a cabinet might be fine. It's just something you have to figure out for yourself and for the situation you're in, particularly if you live with other people. You may prefer a higher level of organization, but if you're going to be resentful that nobody else is keeping to that level of organization, you're going to have to figure something else out. And I think that comes up a lot in situations with roommates. One person has a higher standard of cleanliness than the other, and that can create conflict. The simplest solution to that is, if that's how you want it, do it yourself. Don't expect them to help you. If they help you, great. But don't expect them to, and just maintain it yourself. If that's the standard you have, stick to that standard. And if it's going to make you resentful to stick to that standard and the other person does it, then don't stick to that standard. But it's something you got to figure out on you. That's a little less on organization and more on personal growth, I think. But it's the kind of thing you do need to figure that out. Ideally, before you start living with somebody long term, but I don't think anybody does. So you're going to have to figure that out as you go. The main thing, though, is to want to approach it as it's a work in progress. So you don't have to get it done all at once. You can do a small section and then move on to the next section. Sometimes things are messy enough. It will get worse before it gets better. And those are the times where doing it in like a 2-day or 3-day span, where that's all you do and you just knock it out, might be better, because sometimes things are so messy. There's no way to do them where it gets incrementally better. It may just get worse if there's a lot of sorting to do. But for a more reasonable level of clutter, that hopefully is not the case for you. And even in those situations, I think you can do them in steps. You may just find it easier to do it all at once. But again, it also depends on your level of clutter. But the thing to remember is incremental progress is progress. So don't discount that. And don't discount just doing 2 minutes, right? Pick a minimum time. 2 minutes is pretty good because it's enough to like pick up some light stuff. Maybe 5 minutes if you have some more things. And just when you think about it, do it for 5 minutes and be done. You've done your minimum for the day. If you do more, great. If you knock out, twice the section in one go, that's great. But don't let yourself burn out on it either. If you've done like one section or one room, don't then go add 3 more rooms to it and think you're going to get done, unless you really want to, and then then it turns into the whole day. But if you don't want it to turn into the whole day, do one section and be done, and then do the next section tomorrow or next week or whenever, and you're good to go. You can leave stuff out. Your counters don't have to be perfectly spotless. I know I've seen people talk about, if there's stuff on the counter, it builds clutter again, and like, it might, but you still have to live there. You still have to put your keys somewhere. You still have to, put your bag somewhere that you're going to take with you tomorrow. So you gotta be reasonable with what your expectations of it are. You're not going to live in an Instagram perfect house, because people don't live in those. They're there for photos, right? They're not there to be lived in, right? If the people are living there, there's going to be clutter. There's going to be things. I was just thinking about this week, I was doing some organization after the holiday period. And I thought some of you might be as well. And if not, hopefully this was at least some benefit to you. So just don't forget, do it in small increments. Give yourself a reasonable minimum, and work on that. And if you do more, great. If that's all you do, that's also fine. And that goes for a lot of things, but perhaps more on that later. And that's it for this week. I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.